So yesterday we did the whole face and all the proportions and how we lay everything out. Today we're going to move on to an eye. So we're going to go to this box, but I'm going to turn my page sideways. Okay, Viva, make sure you're paying attention. Paper should be in front of you. Paper from yesterday. All right, so y'all went over this last year, most of y'all, at least I think. Okay. All right, so we're going to sketch on an eye. There's one on the board already, but we're going to on our paper. So the top curve, a lot of times we just draw a perfect curve, and some people's eye looks like that, and that's fine. But sometimes it's, it'll kind of, what am I saying? What's this word? Arch. It'll kind of arch, maybe off-centered, like this one here. If you want yours perfectly arched, you can do that as well. Just giving you a little bit of different examples. We drew a curved line. We're sketching an eye. All right, and then we're going to sketch the bottom lid. And usually this one's a little more flat. And don't close it all the way. You remember why? That little eye booger cavity, that little gross thing right there. All right, so we're going to bring that down. Just a little one. Sometimes they go straight out. Sometimes they're pointed down a little more. Sometimes they're real like kind of a sharp point. Sometimes they're more rounded. So as long as you don't, it's not like hanging down here, you're probably all right. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to shade this area in. So very lightly, I'm going to add a curved line there. I'm going to make the edges a little bit darker, and I'm going to leave the center white. That's your eye booger cavity. Everybody has one. Yes. All right, and then this part's optional. This is going to be like your inner eyelid, like the little skin on top of your eyelid that's going to touch your eyeball. It's a really light line close to the bottom line we drew, and then it kind of fades in. That's where your bottom eyelashes are going to be coming out of, if you choose to add those. Yeah, it's just part of your skin, because your skin is three-dimensional, so it has to have some depth to it. All right, then we're going to add the colored part, which, what do we call that? The iris. Okay, so you're not going to see the full circle. You might see the bottom, and that's fine if you can see the bottom of your circle, but you usually don't see the top unless somebody's opening their eyes like really, really wide. All right, next thing we're going to add is the highlight. Do you remember what that is? The what? Not the pupil. What's it? The light, okay? So it's just like it sounds, the highlight. It's where light is reflecting off of your eye. So depending on where you are, it's going to change. Like if you're in here with all the lights on and there's all these different lights, you kind of get little speckles. You could have like a jelly bean shape, and by that, it's kind of like this in there, a jelly bean shape. You could have two circles. You could have like a triangle. You could have a square. I feel like this looks like a remote, like a video game controller or something now. Okay, so any one of these options is fine, but we do draw this in before the pupil because sometimes it's covering up part of the pupil. I'm going to go jelly bean option, but all right, and then I'm going to sketch in my pupil and try to keep it in the center. So think of your iris like a donut. And now this is the center of the donut, and stay away from your highlight though. Okay, so we know we can color that in dark. All right, and we're not just going to color in our iris. If you've ever looked really close at your eyes, you'll see it has like all sorts of like crazy detail and texture. If your eyes are like that almost black color, it's hard to see, but it's in there. All right, so we're going to darken the outside edge of whatever part of the iris we can see. I can't see the top, and on mine, I can't really see the bottom, so I'm not worrying about those borders. And then the easiest way to fill it in is if you think of the pupil like a cartoon sun. Like here's a cartoon sun, and then you have the rays that go around. Okay, you don't have to draw that. But you're going to have a whole bunch of rays. Okay, so, and stay outside the highlight though. So a whole bunch of these little lines just to kind of give it that detail look. I start my light and then kind of go back and make them darker. Especially if you have darker eyes, you would make them a little bit darker. For me, I have blue eyes, so my stuff's usually a little bit lighter. But if you ever look close at an eye, like there's like the shape of a V might be in there, or some dots, some different lines, different colors mixed in. No, that's too close. That's not social distancing. All right, and then I'm going to add, this part's optional because it has to be very, very light, is I'm going to actually shade the eyeball part. So there would be a little bit of a shadow right under the eyelid. And again, I like to turn my paper so it's easier for me to shade. And then a little bit around the edges. But again, you don't have to do this. Okay, Biba, you got to raise your hand if you have a question. Or comment. Ooh, where'd it go? Okay. All right, we're going to add one more thing before we do the eyelashes. So we're going to add the crease, which goes over the eye. This is not my eyebrow, and it's not really a wrinkle. It's the little line where like your eyelid kind of tucks in. Yeah, it's close. It's just that little fold of skin right above. Yeah. And then again, you could leave it like that. Again, it's optional if you want to take your pencil. And if I'm shading, I kind of hold it back and keep my lead kind of flat. And add a little shadow, especially along the edges. Keep it a little lighter on the eye booger cavity side. And then if you want to carefully take your finger and go in the direction you put that on there and just smooth it out, you get just a little bit of shadow. If you add too much, it might look like they're wearing makeup, which if that's what you're going for, great, but you might not want to go crazy with it. All right, so for eyelashes, what we don't want to do is make them look like Snuffleupagus from Sesame Street. If I've ever seen like the furry elephant thing and his eyelashes are like crazy long, they kind of look like this. This is not what we're going for, okay? We also don't want to have the SpongeBob look where it's like 3 long straight ones, okay? It's the quicker you go, see how I did a little quick motion? It's thicker at the bottom and it gets thin at the top. That's what eyelashes look like. So if you want to practice on the side, just make sure it's also not like a Nike check, which actually, that would probably work. That looks pretty good, actually. But maybe practice before you do it. Because some people are a little nervous and they get hesitant and their eyelashes kind of look like this, and that's a little scary looking too. Okay? So where do you think it's going to be longer? Near your eyebrow cavity or on the opposite side? Where's the longest eyelashes? Sometimes the top. It's usually actually the outside. So usually it's a little longer on the outside, and I space them out quite a bit at first, and when I get closer to the eyebrow cavity, they've pretty much kind of gone away. For boys, I'd keep them a little shorter, and I wouldn't make them as thick, just so they don't look super feminine, but if you want to draw that, that's fine. Mine has a lot of eyelashes. I kind of went a little overboard. All right, if you want bottom ones, they're going to kind of come off that little pocket you drew, or if you didn't draw it, just draw it right next to that little line. What time y'all leave? 9:30? Okay. All right, so but keep this page because we are going to work on it another day. So just passed out a new sheet of blank paper. Everybody should have white paper. Turn it portrait, which is skinny ways. And we're going to put our name at the bottom. Yeah, if you want to put it on the back for now, that's fine. So you don't accidentally like draw over your name and cover it up. All right, so some of y'all yesterday when you were doing your portraits, well, in some classes, they were doing people with masks on, which defeated the purpose because I wanted to see the nose and mouth because that's what I want y'all to practice. But since we're going to focus on eyes, I was like, well, might as well do a project. So I didn't finish this one, but this is just an example of kind of what we're going to be doing. We're going to be working on eyes and the spacing of where the nose needs to go, spacing of eyebrows, and then we can work on hair and face shape. So we can work on these things before we look at nose and mouth, okay? We're also going to be working on some shading when we do the mask. And you can color this, like if I wanted this to be blue, instead of shading with my pencil, I could shade with blue, but we're not going to get there today. We're just basically going to be getting this started, and we'll finish it up eventually. I don't know what day. What are the people? Oh, those we're saving for another day. All right. So what we're going to do is think about the middle of your paper. Find the middle of your paper. And then just go slightly above that. If you need a measurement, go 2 fingers above the middle of your page. Okay? All right, and then think about how big your eyes need to be for the face to take up that whole page. Okay? So if I like to use my pencil as a guide, so I would say, okay, I want my eyes about this big. Okay? So I have a measurement here, and my thumbnail is marking how long I want the eye to be, okay? So here's the middle of my page, and am I going to draw an eye right here in the middle? But why am I putting the same size of an eye right here? Okay, for my measurement, because remember when I drew the creepy face, we can fit an eye between there. All right, so I'm going to put a mark here, really light, and a mark right here. So I'm leaving enough space between my eyes. Okay, and then I can measure. So do the same thing. I line up with the first dot with my pencil lead, put my thumbnail where the second one is, and I move to the first dot, and I put another little mark right there. So now I know this eye needs to be this big. Okay, so now I've got this eye should be the same. My spacing should be the same, and now I have to find how big this eye is going to be. So I put my pencil opposite way, so I can do the mark with that pencil lead. Line it up with the dot. Thumbnail, you got to raise your hand. Move it over and mark it. Yes, Viva. You're going to have 4. So the first 2 are for this eye. The second 2 are for this eye. What? Yeah, I'm going to walk you through it still, but yeah, we'll be filling in the eye. All right. So let's start with the top arches. Again, they could be perfectly straight, or they could be angled more towards the middle. It's a little dramatic. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure I like that. Four, because you need 2 for each eye. Yes, it could be a perfectly shaped arch. That's fine, if that's easier for you. All right, and then the bottom line usually is a little more straight. And where are my eye booger cavities going to be? On the inside or the outside? So are the eye booger cavities pointing towards the nose, or are they on the outside? Good, the inside. They're pointing towards the nose. Make sure they're both on the inside. They're not, like you should have a mirror image, not both on the right or both on the left. All right, so the bottom's a little bit straighter. Add your eye booger cavity. If your eyes aren't perfect, that's okay. Ooh, I think mine are a little crooked. That's okay.
One's bigger than the other.
Yeah, in real life, one eye is bigger than the other on my face. So, all right. So then we're gonna shade in the eye booger cavity. Outside's gonna be a little bit darker. Leave the inside lighter. And then we'll add in that little line. That's optional. You don't have to add it in. Viva, quit talking out. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and add the eye crease now, which is the line over the eye. Yes.
Are they supposed to be dark?
What, the creases?
Yeah.
Not super dark, no. If the person's wearing makeup, it will be a little bit darker, but you don't want them super, super dark. All right, so then I'm gonna add the iris. Remember, we see the sides, maybe the bottom. And if your eyes are two different sizes, you might see different amounts of the iris of one and the other. And that's okay, because that could happen in real life. All right, what do we do next? Y'all remember? Before we add the pupil, what do we need to sketch in? The jelly bean. Viva, you remember what it's called? The highlight, okay, where the light's reflecting. I'm gonna change it up this time. I'm gonna do the 2 dots. So this is not the pupil. So I try not to start with this one because it does look really confusing because it's not a pupil in a weird spot. This is the highlight, light's reflecting. And try to keep them on the same side. So I know eye booger cavity said keep facing each other, but like if my light is coming from the right, then it's reflecting on the right side of both the eyes, okay? All right, so leave those whites, draw in the pupil and color that in dark. And then the iris, the outside edge is gonna be a little bit darker. Probably not as dark as your pupil, but unless you have really dark eyes, then it's gonna be pretty dark. Well, there's different shades of brown. Then yeah, yours might be pretty dark. All right, and then I'm gonna add those little lines in here. All right, so from here, I'm gonna add, this is again optional, I'm going to add just a very light shading around the eyeball. And I'm doing just the edges and under the top. Bless you. And if anybody has a blender at home, not like a blender like you make a smoothie, but it's like a little white, it almost looks like a pencil made out of cardboard or paper or something. And you can take that instead of using your finger, and it'll get in the little fine details and blend it for you.
Oh, blender.
Like a blending stick? Maybe it's called a blending stick. That would make more sense than just a blender. But no, you don't have to have it. Just if you do and you wanted to bring it, you could leave it in your box. Okay. All right, so from here, we're going to be adding eyelashes. Remember, kind of keep them longer on the outside. And then for me, once they hit kind of the pupil, well, it just depends on the person, but once it hits the pupil, some people, like, you just don't see them anymore. And then maybe probably after the iris, for everybody, they're just very, very faint, very, very there. This little part probably shouldn't have any visible ones. I'm coming. Hold on. Give me a second. And then if you want the bottom ones, they're a little bit shorter and lighter. Just kind of vary lengths and draw it real quick. If your person's wearing makeup, you'll make like kind of the base a little bit thicker, so it looks like they have mascara on, but you do not have to do that. All right, but actually this probably is a good stopping point, because tomorrow we'll go over the nose and the eyebrows and probably add in the face shape, and then we'll see how far we get from there, okay? But double check your names on that, put it in the front pocket of your folder.